Hello everyone, happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Now, I started this live a few minutes ago and it didn't seem to be coming up on my feed. So I'm hoping that this one is working. We're having some technical difficulties. Oh, I see Sue is watching. So thank you, Sue, for joining me because I don't know what was going on there. Something was a little wonky. So welcome to another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am so excited to share with you the new Pansy Petals suite from the Stampin' Up! 2021-2022 annual catalog. So this catalog is 1 week old. It just came out. And it is a little bit overwhelming when we get a new catalog chock full of new products. It's hard to know where to start, right? We can make our wish list and they're 1.5 miles long and it's hard to kind of get our bearings and know what to focus on. So one of the things that I like to do when a new catalog first comes out is focus on the product suites. Why? Because they're already designed to coordinate. So you don't have to kind of figure out which stamps and dies go with which papers and which ribbons and which embellishments. So Stampin' Up! Has kind of done some of the design work for you. So it's a great place to start to get a grouping of coordinating products that automatically will work together. So that's just a little sort of tip for when you're, perusing a new catalog, trying to figure out where to start. So today, as I said, we're all about pansy petals, and pansies are one of my favorite flowers. They remind me of my mom. My mom lives way up in Northern Ontario, and it is late when spring finally arrives. She's an avid gardener, and so the minute the frost is out of the ground, is at the garden center buying pansies, and she loves planting them in her pots and in her garden to add a little splash of color after the long, cold Northern Ontario winter. So pansies will forever remind me of my mom. And so I totally gravitated to this suite immediately. The other thing that I love about the paper in this suite is that it uses all 5 of the new ink colors, which is a great way to kind of get a feel for the new colors and play with them and figure out which colors work together and all of that. So it's a great place to start with the new catalog. So if you are just kind of getting into the new catalog and trying to figure out your first order, this is a great one to start with. So today I'm going to show you how to make pansies using stamps, how to make pansies using the designer series paper, as well as how to make pansies using the dies. So it's a super versatile suite. So we're going to do a little bit of everything. We're also going to do a fun fold. So there's a whole lot going on. I am going to, first of all, pull up my video on my iPad to see who's joining me. It's always a relief when I actually see the video come up. Because it did not come up the first time. Oh, we got Krista and Gail and Deb and Debbie and Judy and Sue and Gail. Thank you everyone for joining me. And Violet. Hi Violet, I just saw your name come up on my camera here. All right, so I am going to flip the camera and we're going to get to it. Enough yapping from me. Let's do some stamping. So look away for a second while I flip the camera and then I'll let you know when we're good to go. All right, I'm just going to center this a little bit. That's better. Okay, we should be good to go. Hi, Arlene. Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Louise. All right, so the Pansy Petals suite, as I mentioned, is on page 28 and 29 in the new annual catalog. It uses all 5 of the new ink colors, which is fabulous. It's got an awesome stamp set and dies, which I'll show you in a minute, and fantastic DSP. Now, the other sort of item in this suite are these little bumblebee trinkets, which are completely sold out right now. They were so popular during pre-order. They're not only back order, but they're not orderable at the moment. So they should be in at the end of the month. I'm going to be ordering a whole bunch of them because I am right out of them. They are just adorable. But we're going to use some ladybugs instead because they totally work. So I'm going to show you the bundle in the suite and then we are going to get to it. So we have the Pansy Patch stamp set. Lots of 2- and 3-step stamping with this set. So you can do multiple layers to create depth and shading on your cards. Okay, we've got lots of stems and leaves and then lovely sentiments with mixed fonts. Love mixed fonts when we have block lettering and script. It's just a really fun combination. So beautiful stamp set and awesome dies. Now, these dies Some of the dies are designed to cut stamped images, so large pansy, small pansy, leaves, stems. And then some of the dies are designed to create layers that you can build into a 3D pansy, which we're also going to do today. So I'm going to show you, because some of these can be a little confusing. These dies, when I first looked at this set, I was like, huh, what do I do with that? So I'm going to show you some tips for how to build your 3D pansies using the dies. Okay? All right, let's get to it. I just need to take a quick sip of water. Too much talking to cameras today. All right, so our first card is this cute one. So this is all about the stamps, okay? So we're going to look at stamps, we're going to look at the DSP, and we're going to look at dies today. So this one is all about stamped pansies. So I'm going to show you how I layered ink to create the different pansies, but I'm not going to bother die cutting them out. I've already die cut a bunch ahead of time, okay? So that will save us some time. So we are going to start with a piece of basic white cardstock. So this started out as 3 inches by 5 1/4. And then I used the new basic borders dies to cut that cute little scallop. It's such an adorable, I love that little small scallop with the stitching. Such a cute look. So to start, we are going to stamp some large pansies. Now I'll just show you my color palette. Again, all about the in colors plus bumblebee. Okay, so we've got soft succulent, bumblebee, polished pink, and fresh freesia. So I'm going to start with the fresh freesia and the large poppy stamps. Not poppy, pansy. Pansies we're stamping, not poppies. All right, so we have in the stamp set, I'll just show you, it's hard to see when they're photopolymer. We're using these 2 stamps, okay? This one here and then this more detailed one. However, we're only going to use 1 shade of ink. So I'm going to start by stamping this more solid image, this one here. And we're going to stamp it in the fresh freesia. I'm going to stamp it a few times. So I'm going to kind of do one here. I'm going to do one over here. And then I'll do a partial one down here. Okay. I will also do one on here so you can kind of see what they look like full strength. Actually, no, you know what? You don't need to see that. I will show you the leaves on there. All right, so I'm going to keep the same shade of ink. I'll just stamp that off because it's got ink on it. Same shade of ink, but now I'm using this stamp, okay, a little bit more detailed. And I am just simply going to stamp right over top of those images. So I'm going to start with this one. Now this is going to be a challenge because I can't look directly down. So we're going to hope that maybe this is lined up. And you see how you get that beautiful shading when you do the tone on tone? So it's just one color of ink, but some spots have a double layer of ink and some just have a single. And you get really cool shading effects. So let me try this one, see if I can line this one up. Okay, isn't that cool? Just with one color of ink. All right, so then we need to stamp the face of the pansy. So my mom has always said to me when I was a little kid, I remember her always saying, don't these pansies look like they have little faces? So the center of the pansy is this little stamp right here. And I'm going to stamp that in Bumblebee. Oops, that's not the stamp I need. Where's my stamp? There it is, this little guy. So again, I'm going to ink that up in the Bumblebee, and I'm just going to center that in the center of my little pansy. So, so cute. And then we'll do this little guy as well. Okay. All right, we'll do the centers in a minute, but for now, we are going to do our smaller pansy. So let me get this out of the side, and I'm going to pull in my polished pink. So this time, with the polished pink, I'm going to start again with my solid image, this one here. I'm going to ink up, but this time I'm going to stamp off because I want this to be a little bit softer. Okay, so I'm going to add one down here. And we'll stamp off again, and we'll do a partial one here. And we'll stamp off again. We'll do a partial one up here. Oh, that wasn't a great stamped off image. That's okay. And then we'll do part of one there. Okay. Then I'm going to bring in this stamp, so this sort of outline stamp, and I'm going to stamp again, but this time full strength. So again, I'm going to attempt to line this up. Well, that's not bad. Even though I can't really look at it. That one's off a little bit. And we'll try that one. And one more. There we go. Okay, so that's another way to get shading. So stamping off and then full strength with the next layer with the polished pink. So Fresh Freesia was full strength for both layers. Polished pink was stamped off for one and then full strength for the other. All right, so two different looks, two different ways to get shading using one color of ink. All right, so now to stamp the centers of the pansies, there is a stamp, this little teeny tiny, I think this is the smallest stamp I've ever owned. It's so little, but we're gonna stamp the center of the large pansies in Soft Succulents. So we're just gonna add just a little dot of Soft Succulent in the center of our large pansies. Okay, then I'm going to stamp that off really well, and we're going to do the centers of the small pansies in Bumblebee. So let's just make sure the succulent's all off there, and we're going to add just a little pop of yellow in the center of our pink pansies. There we go. Isn't that pretty? Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Now, before we put this together, I'm going to quick show you how I did the leaves. Okay, so the leaves were done similarly to the large pansies. So I have a scrap here. So there, again, are solid image stamps for the leaves, and then there's detailed. Okay, so the idea is to layer those. So I'm going to bring in the larger leaf. And again, I'm just going to stamp full strength. Okay, and I'll do the same thing with the smaller leaf. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in the detailed stamp. Now you could certainly use a different shade of ink. These look amazing, stamped right over top in Evening Evergreen. Okay, to get real contrast, but it is really nice and subtle if you layer it in the succulent. So you get just really subtle shading as opposed to something with a really strong contrast. Okay, so lots of ways to play with color and shading with these stamps. And the cool thing is you don't need to have a million different shades of purple or a million different shades of pink to get shading on your stamped images. Okay, all right, so let's put this together. So here I have a piece of polished pink cardstock. Okay, it's 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I've embossed it using the Meadow Moments embossing folder. Meadow Moments, My Meadow. Louise will know. I think it's Meadow Moments. And you'll notice that there's a part that's unembossed. That's because that particular embossing folder is sized to fit through the mini cut and emboss machine. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adhere our stamped panel to the right edge to cover up that unembossed section. So we'll just add a little bit of adhesive here. And we'll pop that on. Hopefully straight. There we go. All right, then we're going to add a little bit of ribbon. Now this ribbon is actually from last year's catalog. It carried over to this year's. It's from the Flowers for Every Season ribbon combo pack. And actually it says it's just jade. It says the color is just jade, but look at how close it is to Soft Succulent. It looks amazing with Soft Succulent. So it has been one of my go-to ribbons because I just think gingham and pansies go hand in hand. I don't know why. I just think they do. So we're going to add a little bit of this ribbon to the front of our card. Meadow Moments. Thank you, Louise. I knew you'd have my back. All right. So we're going to add our ribbon. Just make sure that's straight. Okay. Oh yeah, Louise, that little bitty flower center or pansy center stamp, for sure, that's one that you want to keep track of, because if you lose it, you're never finding that one again. Not ever. All right, so we're going to go ahead and glue our card front to a thick basic white card base. It's 4 1/4 by 11, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. So we're going to fold that in half along our score line, crisp it up, and then we're going to add a bit of adhesive to the back of our panel. Come on. There we go. And we're going to pop that on. I just need to make sure I'm doing this right. Which way does this go? There we go. Oh yeah, it would be just like This Day Has Gone if I glued that upside down. All right, so there we go. There is our card base. Now we're going to do a little floral arranging. So we have, these are stamped the same way that I stamped my pansies on the background panel, but I just took and die cut these out. Okay, same thing goes for the leaves. So I've cut 2 pansies and 3 leaves, and then I have a little label that's from the messages die. I like to keep a stash of these just sitting on my desk so that when I'm designing cards, I can just grab them and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to stamp my thank you sentiment on this little label in Soft Succulent. Okay, love that font. And then we're going to build our little arrangement of flowers. So our label is going to go on just sort of layered on the bottom part of the pansy there. So we're going to add just a little bit of tape to the back of our label. And we'll pop that on just like that. And then we're going to add a couple of leaves. So I'm going to add a little bit more seal to the back of my poppy. Not poppy, pansy. Holy cow, you guys. What is wrong with my brain today? I'm talked out. That's what the problem is. I have been in online meetings with kids all day. All right, and then we're going to add our little pansy, our peeking out the bottom, okay? Keeping in mind that when we put this on, we're going to have this bigger pansy sort of peeking out underneath that as well, okay? So I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive here, and we'll add our little pansy kind of peeking out there. And then we're going to add one more leaf, just kind of peeking out there, okay? That's a cute little arrangement. And then we're going to add some dimensionals to the back. I'm almost out of dimensionals again. I think I might have to grab another sheet or we're not going to make it through this video. That would be tragic. Having a dimensional shortage, that would be almost worse than running out of seal. Actually, it is worse than running out of seal because if you run out of seal, you can use liquid glue. If you run out of dimensionals, there's no other options. All right, so we're going to pop this onto the front of our card. And I did it so that I could see a little bit of the ribbon peeking out from under my label. So I just want to make sure I get my label straight. Okay. And then we're going to tie a little bitty bow. As soon as I find what I did with my ribbon, there it is. So I have, again, my spool of ribbon. I'm going to take and pinch the ribbon between my thumb and index finger, making 2 loops. Okay. Then I'm going to cross my left loop over the right, bring it around and through, and pull. All right, that is the easiest way to make a cute little bow. Once you've got your sort of bow formed, then it's just a matter of playing with the loops and getting them to the size you want, making sure it's nice and tight. And then we'll trim our ends. Get this out of the way. And we're just going to pop that on in the corner just like that with the glue dots. So we'll just press the knots of the bow, whoopsie, into a glue dot. And then press it onto our card. Okay. And then the last little touch is a little bit of bling. So these are the new, oh, there's an in color one on there too. These are the new Genial Gems, and I love these. They come in 2 colors. This is the Soft Succulent and the Pale Papaya. Okay. So we're just going to take your pick and place a couple of these guys on the front of our card. Just wherever. Generally speaking, when you're using these little embellishments, you want to make a triangle. Okay, and work in odd numbers. So 1, 3, 5. I wouldn't do 7. Seven's a little bit of overkill. Okay, so on the inside of my sample, I stamped some more pansies on the inside, and there's still lots of room to write a message. All right, so there is number 1. So that's creating pansies with stamps. All right, we're going to create pansies, or we're going to create our card using pansies from the DSP in just a minute. So let me just make some space here. Get these out of the way. That card used a ton of stamps. Let's set these guys aside. And I'm going to pull in this fun fold that we're going to make. Now, this is a really, really easy fun fold. So if you are someone who, you know, is newer to stamping and you like the idea of doing a card that's a little bit different, but you're nervous about trying a fun fold, this is a great one to try. Okay. It looks like a standard card on the front. When you open it up, look at that. It's such a fun little pop-out feature on this card. It stands up like this. All right, so when you stand it on your desk or on your mantle, it's going to have this fun little pop-out. There's room to write a greeting here. Okay, if you need more room, you could stamp on this or decorate it with DSP and put a panel to write on the back if you'd like. But such a fun pop out. There's so many possibilities with this fold. So I'm going to show you how to do it. It's really, really simple. And I'm going to show you how I made this card, but then there are so many possibilities with this fun fold. So to start, I have a piece of soft succulent cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 11. Once again, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. So exact same dimensions as the last card. All right, so that is our base. So we're going to fold that in half for a sec, just so we have a really clear idea of where the center is. Okay, and then on the inside panels, I am going to use some of the gorgeous DSP from this suite. Now, there are so many gorgeous options for this DSP. So this is the soft succulent gingham. On the back, we have leaves. So you're going to see I did a whole lot of die cutting of these leaves so that I have kind of a stash of both leaves and pansies that I can design cards with. So when I first got the paper, the first thing I did is just cut out a whole bunch. So then I had a whole bunch to play with. All right, so it's just one little idea for how to use that paper. Now it's hard because this is gorgeous gingham. So I used one sheet of the leaves and cut them out and then used the rest of the gingham. All right, so each of these panels is cut to 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and they are going to get glued on each half of our card, just like that. Okay, so that's going to give us a nice background. Now, if you don't want to use up DSP, now I don't know too many hardcore crafters who don't have a massive hoard of designer series paper. So this is a great way to showcase those papers, to use it up, and have a reason to buy more, right? So it's a win-win all the way around. So we're just going to add some adhesive to the back of this panel. And we're going to pop this on. So we have about 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. Okay. So that is going to give us our backdrop for our fun pop-out panel here. Okay. Hello, Helen. Hi, Susan. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Judy. All right. So now we are going to work on our pop-out piece. So I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to bring in a strip of soft succulent cardstock. It's 1 1/2 by 11. So same length as this, okay, just narrower. So 1 1/2 inches wide by 11 inches long. And I'm going to bring in my trimmer and we're going to do some scoring. So I'm going to first put one short edge of my strip in at 2 3/4 inches. So it's going at 2 3/4. And we're going to score that one. Then we're going to slide it over to 5 1/2. Okay, now I could pull out the arm of this and slide it over further, but because I'm lazy, I'm just going to flip it around. Okay, so now my scores are on this side. I'm going to put the other end in at 2 3/4 and score one more time. Okay, so then I'm not sure how well this shows, but you have scores. So basically you divided that strip into quarters, okay, into 4 equal parts. All right, we'll set our trimmer aside because we won't need that anymore. So to start, we're going to fold this strip in half along that middle score line. So we're just going to fold that in half. We want to make sure our ends line up so it's nice and even. Okay, and we'll crisp it up with our bone folder. And then this score line here, I'm going to fold this one back towards me. And we'll straighten that out, make sure it's nice and even. I'm going to flip it over and then do the same thing here. I'm going to flip this top part back towards me. Okay, so you can see that we have formed a W, and that's actually the name of this fold. It's called a W fold card, okay, or an M if you look at it upside down. But somehow it got named a W fold. I don't know, maybe somebody with a W initial designed it the first time. I don't know. All right, so that is our panel that is going to allow the pop out feature on our card. Okay, now we need to work on each one of these little decorative panels. So in my little bag of goodies here, let me dump out all this stuff. I got lots of bits in here. So we need 4 pieces of the same size cardstock. Now you could do the same color. I could have cut the same color. I could have done some more soft succulent. I opted to use Evening Evergreen because I like the contrast. Okay, I like the way that the evergreen pops against the succulent and really makes these panels stand out. So we have 4 panels of Evening Evergreen. They're cut to 2 1/4 by 3 inches. Okay, let me just double check that. 2 1/4 by 3. Yes, I'm right. 2 1/4 by 3 inches. So I have 4 of them. Okay. Then I have 2 pieces of basic white cardstock. That is going to be one's going to be for my sentiment. The other one is going to be for me to write my message. And then I have 2 pieces of Pansy Petals Designer Series paper. So I've got this pretty pattern. The stripes are on the back side, so it's essentially 2 of the same piece. I just got one side reversed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead now and layer first the DSP on my little panels here. I'm going to use liquid glue just so I can get them centered nicely. So we'll pop this one on. And we're going to have a nice equal border all the way around, again, 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then I'm going to do this one with the stripes showing. So we'll pop that on there. Okay, and again, one of the advantages of using liquid glue is that we have that little bit of time to adjust before it sets. Okay, I'm going to glue one of my pieces of basic white. This is the one that I'm going to write on, so I don't need to do any stamping on it. You certainly could if you wanted to. So we'll add that. Okay, and then this last piece, we're going to do a little bit of stamping of a sentiment before we glue it down, because it's always a good thing to glue first, right? Or stamp first before we glue. All right, so I'm going to use Evening Evergreen ink. Hi, Nancy. How are you? And hi, Peggy. Thanks for joining me. So I am using a sentiment from the stamp set. Again, I'll show you because it's really hard to see. I'm using this, the little things you know, wishing you a little extra happiness just because you're you. What a great sentiment for a birthday card. So we're going to ink that up with the Evening Evergreen, and we're just going to center that on our little white panel here and stamp. Okay. Then we're going to decorate it just a little bit. We're going to add one of these little bitty pansies. Now these are all die cut from the Designer Series paper, which makes making these cards super easy. Like I said, I have a huge stash of these. I die cut out actually several sheets. And so now I have a whole bunch of pansies in all sizes and colors that I can decorate my projects with. Okay, so let's glue this on and then we'll add our pansy. So we'll add a little bit of glue to this one and pop that on. And then we're going to add just a bit of glue to the back of our pansy here and add a leaf. And then that is just going to tuck on just in that bottom corner of my sentiment panel. Now, it may be tempting to pop things up on the inside, or maybe not. Maybe it's just me who's addicted to dimensionals, but you don't want to pop things up on the inside, okay? Because that will keep your card from closing properly. It's already, with that mechanism, fairly thick. So if you add popped up items on the inside of your card, you're going to find that your card doesn't close very well. Okay, so we have DSP, we have sentiment, we have a panel to write on. Now we need to add some pansies to our plain DSP. Now you totally could leave it as is, right? You could do this kind of thing and it would be just fine without the decorated panel, or you could use a different pattern of DSP, but I wanted to highlight these gorgeous die cut pansies. So we are going to do a little bit more floral arranging here. Let me just see what I've got. So we've got, let's do a yellow and a pink and a coral. Okay, so our pansies, now you want to make sure they're mostly on that little panel. You don't want them hanging off too far because it's not going to fit on our little W here. Okay, so we don't have a ton of room for them to be hanging off too far. Okay. So once we're going to go ahead and glue our flowers down, and then we can tuck our leaves in after the fact. So I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive to each one. I'll do this guy here. And again, make sure he's mostly on the panel. And then we'll add this little guy down here. Okay, and then I've got some leaves. Again, just die cut from the DSP. So we'll add, maybe we'll put one up here. So just a smidge of glue there and tuck that in there. And then we'll add one down here. Gonna do one tucked in here. And then we'll add a different colored one, just because we can. We'll add one down here. Actually, you know what? Let's tuck that behind the pink. I really like the pink pansy, so I don't want to cover up too much of it. There we go. There's our decorated panel. All right, so now we are going to go ahead and glue this onto our W. So I'm going to lay this out. And this is where your grid paper is your best friend, because it will help you make sure that your panels are all even. So you're going to glue your first one on, and I did these pretty much centered on my W here. So I want to make sure, first of all, that my W is like straight, okay? Then I'm going to adhere my first panel. I'm only going to put adhesive for now right here, okay? And we're going to go ahead and center that. Now I'm going to use my grid lines to help me make sure that this is straight. Okay. Then we're going to add our sentiment panel. So we're going to add that one here. And we'll center that. Whoops, centered is better. There we go. And again, we want to make sure that these are relatively straight. And then we're going to add this guy here. Make sure my W is straight. That guy can go right about there. And then finally our panel to write on. Now, if you are left-handed, you may want to flip this and have your panel to write on this side, just because it's easier to write. If you're a lefty, I'm a righty, so I'm good with it on this side, but if you were a lefty, that's just something to consider. All right, so there is our W. Easy, right? Okay, now we're going to adhere it inside our card, and this is super easy if you do it the way I show you. It's a pain in the neck if you don't, so be warned. All right, so I'm going to start by closing my little W here with my panel that I'm going to write on top, okay? So the right panel on top. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive all over the back of that. So on both on the panel and on the W strip. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and adhere this, and I want to make sure that the end of my strip lines up with the edge of my card. Okay. And again, we can use the gingham to help us get this on straight, which is kind of an advantage to using this gingham paper. Okay, so that now is glued down. Now I'm going to close this up, okay? We are going to add some more adhesive to the back of this top panel, and then we're just going to close our card. And that is that. Isn't that cool? So easy to get that in your card and centered. So easy. All right, now let's decorate the front, because the front is... It's what gets everybody's attention, right? So here I have another piece of the DSP. It is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. I have some of this gorgeous soft succulent in color ribbon. This is my favorite in color ribbon of all time. It's so pretty, so easy to tie. And I just realized I didn't give myself enough for a bow, but that's okay. I've got more. So first thing we're going to do is add this strip of ribbon to the front of our card. So I'm just adding some glue dots to get that on there. All right. Then we can go ahead and glue that down onto our card base. So we'll add a little bit of adhesive. And we're going to pop that on there. Just like that. And just make sure we didn't skew our ribbon here. Okay. Then we have a scalloped stitched rectangle cut using the new color and scallop contour dies, I think they're called. It's from the color and contour bundle, I know that much. And then I have another piece of the gingham DSP that is cut to fit inside that square. Now you're going to see this end, it doesn't quite line up. I didn't quite measure properly, but that's okay because this end's going to get covered with pansies anyway. So we're good. This piece is 2 inches by... It's 3 1/4. It should be 3 3/8. Should be a little bit longer. Okay. but doesn't matter, like I said. So we're going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back of our gingham. And again, I will put all of these measurements in the video description afterwards. So whether you are watching the replay on Facebook or you are watching on my YouTube channel, you'll be able to get all of the measurements, okay? All right, so here I have a pansy that I die cut from the edge of the DSP. I don't waste any pansies, let me tell you. So this one, it doesn't matter that it's only a partial pansy because we're going to be able to cover it. We're going to add a pink one here. We're going to add a little yellow one here, and no one will ever know that that's a partial pansy, okay? So before we do that, we're going to actually go ahead and glue this onto the front of our card. So let's add a little bit of adhesive here. Oh, you did use them this afternoon. That's awesome, Louise. They are awesome dies. I find I'm using them a lot. Okay, so let's add our little purple partial pansy here. Say that 10 times fast. Purple partial pansy. All right, let's add that one right about there. And then we're actually going to pop up the pink one. So I'm using the edges of my dimensional sheet. That's how desperate the situation is here, you guys. Will we make it through this video? That's the million-dollar question. We shall see. All right, so we're going to pop this guy up right about there. And then we're going to add our little yellow one right about here with just, you know what, I'm going to use a couple of minis. Minis to the rescue. So peel those off and add this little guy down here. And look at that. You'd never know that was half a pansy, would you? All right. So our leaves, we're just going to kind of tuck in around our blooms. So we're just going to kind of add, again, just a little pop of green. And the pop of green really sets off the flowers, right? So using the leaves just as a kind of an accent is a great way to really make the flowers pop. So let's add this guy right there. And then we'll do one more, I think there. Yeah, we'll do one more there. Let's see if that'll fit in there. Tuck it in. There we go. Okay, there is our arrangement of pansies. So our last thing now is to stamp our sentiment. So we're going to do a happy birthday, because who doesn't need birthday cards? And where did my ink go? Am I looking at it? Yes, I am. It's right there. Okay, so we're going to stamp our happy birthday in Evening Evergreen on just a little bit of scrap here. And then I'm going to use my scallop duo, scallop, double scallop, scallop duet, double scallop. You know which one I mean. This punch that is currently not orderable, but should be in at the end of the month. We're going to pop out that sentiment. And then that is going to get popped up on the front of our card because, you know, I'm almost out of dimensionals and it seemed like a good idea to pop everything up. We'll add a mini one here just to make sure that stays put. So we'll pop that on right about there. Okay. And then I have some of these adorable little ladybug trinkets. These are from the mini catalog. They are still available and they totally work with pansies. So I'm going to just press one of my little ladybugs into a glue dot and add that right there. And I will add my bow later just because I don't want to take the time to dig out more ribbon. Okay, but that is our finished card. Isn't that cute? Super easy, fun folds. It's very beginner friendly, that folds. All right, are you ready to build some 3D pansies? This is our last card. So I wanted to take some time and show you how to put all the different die cut pieces together to build these pansies because it can be a little bit intimidating. When you look at all of these pieces on the die set, you kind of go, I have no idea what to do with those. At least I did. Maybe you'll be different, but for me, I looked at it and had no clue. So I wanted to take a few minutes and show you how to build some pansies. So let's dump out some bits here and we will get to it. So we're going to build our pansies first and then we will put our card together. So I'm just going to get rid of these pieces for now. And you'll see I have all sorts of die cut bits and pieces. And this is where it can get intimidating, right? You look at this and you go, what do I do with this? So we're going to start. This is going to be sort of the base of our pansy. Excuse me, base of our pansy here. So we're going to add a little hint of yellow to the sort of bottom of our pansy using a little bit of Bumblebee ink and a sponge dauber. Okay, so I'm just kind of starting in the center and working my way out, keeping in mind that a lot of this is going to get covered. Okay, so it looks quite strong now. Once we get all the pieces on, it won't look so strong. Okay, so that is that. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that found those intimidating. Okay, I'm glad that this is going to be helpful for you guys. All right, so then this piece, okay, so this one was die cut with this one, okay, and then this one it was die cut with this piece, and we are going to add just a little bit of adhesive. Now you could use the adhesive sheets with these if you wanted to. I was kind of experimenting. I cut a whole bunch of these and was experimenting, so I didn't want to waste the adhesive sheets because I wasn't sure which pieces I was going to use. These are not terribly difficult to maneuver with liquid glue. They're not super, super detailed. You don't need a lot, that's for sure. But you're going to see when you layer that piece onto your base, they line up perfectly. Okay, the dies are designed to layer perfectly on top of each other. Okay, all right, we're going to set that one aside for a minute. Then we have two pieces that are going to form sort of the back or top of our pansy. So that was cut with this one. So you need to cut two of these when you're building a pansy, okay? So we are going to take those and we're going to add a little bit of an accent also in the Blackberry Bliss, okay? So those pieces were cut with this one. So I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to the back of those. Again, you don't need a lot of glue for these. And you're going to see when we layer this, they're going to line up perfectly. Do you see that? Like, they are perfect. I am in awe of this die set. They're so well designed. Then we're going to add another one to our other piece. So we'll pop that onto there. Okay, so now we kind of have our background for our pansy, and then we have our base. Do you see how that comes together? Okay, now you can decide if you want the overlap to be kind of behind or in front. It's totally up to you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add just a little hint of glue right here because I think I want my pieces to layer behind. So we're going to do that. And then that is going to layer, and you see how the edge piece kind of lines up with this piece. Okay, they meet. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue at the top here. Okay, and then this is going to layer on there so that those little edge pieces meet. Okay, so now I have almost a complete poppy. Pansy. Oh my goodness. Poppies are totally different. I do know my flowers. All right, so this is the little face of our pansy. It is going to nestle just inside, and you're going to see it's going to fit just perfectly in there. So we are going to add, again, a little bit of glue and just pop that in there, just like that. I know the dies are a little bit overwhelming, Arlene, and it took me a while of playing with them until I really got comfortable with how to build my pansy. So what I would recommend doing when you get these dies is die cut all the pieces in a whole bunch of colors and then just play around. Okay, that's kind of what I did until I ended up with something that I like. Now we're going to add a center. So these little teeny dies are cut, or pieces are cut using this little teeny die here. It cuts 3 centers for your pansies at once. Okay. So I'm going to add just a little dab of glue in the center, and I'm going to use my take your pick and pick up one of those little centers and plunk it right in place. Okay, take your pick is your friend when you're using these guys. All right, so that is our pansy. Now to do the little buds, I've got 2, I'm going to do 2 buds. So I have 2 pieces cut from white in this. Okay, so it's this die. Then I did 2 freesia pieces in this. Okay, so that's kind of my layer. And then I did evening evergreen for the stem. Okay, so before we do any gluing, we're going to add just a little hint of bumblebee again to our buds. I just like that little accent of yellow. And then we're going to add just a teeny bit of glue sort of to the end of the bud, and we're going to layer one of the freesia pieces over top, and you're going to see that they're a little bit bigger, and that's by design, right? A bud, as it opens, there's layers, right? So there's that one. I hope, have another freesia piece. Do I? Did I lose it? It's possible. Oh, well. Oh, no, I don't know. Maybe we'll just do one piece. I don't know what happened to my other freesia piece. We'll pretend. You know what? Let's just do one without the freesia, because it looks quite pretty without it as well. So we'll just do a little bit of glue here. Excuse me. My voice is cracking. And we'll add that to that. And then we'll add our stem to our layered one. And pop that on there. Isn't it pretty the way these layer? I love them. They're so detailed. Awesome. All right, so there's our buds. To do our leaves, we have solid leaves, okay? And then we have these detail layers that we're gonna add over top. So there's a larger and a smaller leaf. Both the solid leaves cut and emboss at the same time. So you could totally use these just as they are. They have lovely detail all by themselves. But if you wanna add that extra layer, you're just going to add a little bit of glue. And again, these layer perfectly. Okay, so there's one, and we'll get rid of our little bits that are still in here. There we go. And a little titch of glue. And we'll pop this on. Okay, that feels pretty. I love the detail that adds. Okay, so now we've got all our pieces assembled. Now we're ready to assemble our card. So we'll just kind of set those aside. Here I have a panel of fresh freesia cardstock. It is 4 by 5¼ inches, and I've embossed it using the other embossing folder from the Meadow Moments embossing folders. So it's actually a set of 2 because they're narrow. They're designed to go in the mini cut and emboss. So we have one that's just leaves, and then we have the other one that has the flowers and butterflies and leaves. Okay. Now, before we do anything on here, we're going to add just a hint of shading. I'm not sure how well it shows up on the camera, but there's just a little bit of shading on the embossed portion to make it pop a little bit. So I'm going to, not my freesia, I'm going to bring in my Gorgeous Grape ink, believe it or not. We're going to use Gorgeous Grape and our blending brush. Pick up just a touch of ink, and we're just going to add the littlest hint of shading over the embossed area. And that's just going to make it pop just ever so subtly to really make that embossing stand out a bit. Okay, so you could totally do this look with fresh freesia. You just have to use more ink, right? By using a couple of shades darker, so I'm using Gorgeous Grape here, you get the same effect without having to spend as much time sponging. Okay, so really subtle, but just makes that embossing stand out a little bit more. All right. So now we have a panel or a piece of more of the Pansy Petals Designer Series paper. This is cut to 1.5 by 5¼ So we are going to glue that along the right edge of our panel. That's the part that doesn't get embossed when we run this panel through the embossing folder. So we're going to just line that up nice and flush, make sure that that's even. Okay. Then we are going to add one of my very favorite embellishments, the vellum doilies. I'm so glad these are back in the catalog. I was very worried they were going to go away. So this one is just going to get glued pretty much in the center of our panel. And to do that, I'm going to use just a little bit of seal, just kind of down here where I know it's going to get covered by a pansy. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and stick that down. Okay, then we can actually go ahead and glue this onto our card base. So our card base is a 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the middle at 4.25. Okay, so we'll fold in half along our score line. And we're going to pop that onto the front of our card. So a little bit of embellishment, or a little bit of adhesive. Holy cow, my mouth is on autopilot. My brain is no longer engaged. Holy cow. I think it's time for a glass of wine. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and layer our pansies. So this guy's going to go on first. All right, we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of it. And again, we're going to be using the last vestiges of our sheet of dimensionals here. And you'll notice I'm kind of keeping my dimensionals towards the middle. That's so that I can tuck my stems and my leaves in after the fact. Okay. So then I have one pretty bud here, and we'll use this little guy. This little guy is younger. We haven't got color on it yet. That's what we're going with. So we're going to tuck this little guy in here, and then the more mature one is going to be up higher. All right. So we're going to add a dimensional or part of one to the back of the bud. Do one there, and I think I'm going to use a couple minis on this other one. So we'll go 1 and 2, and we'll get rid of our backings. So we'll do our little guy first. So it's going to kind of be hanging over this way. And then our taller one is going to be kind of coming up and a bit taller like that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love it so much. I honestly could play with these dies all day. And then we're going to add our leaves. So our leaves we're going to tuck in behind. Honestly, if you saw how many pansy samples I have just from playing, like it's crazy. I have enough pansy cards, I think, to last me a lifetime. So we're going to get rid of our backings here, and we'll tuck the larger leaf in sort of towards the bottom. And then we'll add our smaller one up a little bit higher. Just kind of tuck it in there. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I love it so much. Okay, we need to stamp our sentiment. Almost done here, guys. Hang with me. I know this is a longer video, but there's so much to love about this suite. I just, honestly, I can't get enough. All right, so we're going to stamp our Love You Much in Evening Evergreen. This little label is cut using the Potted Succulents dies. That die set has some really cute little labels in it. So we're going to stamp Love You Much, and I'm going to stamp it more towards the left side of my label because the right end is going to tuck in behind my poppy, or pansy, in behind my pansy. And we're going to add just a little bit of dimensional to the back. Peel off our backing. And then we're going to tuck that in behind there. And again, we're going to hope that this is straight-ish, kind of, sort of. All right, and then we're going to tie a cute little bow. So this is more of that in color ribbon, this time in Fresh Freesia. So we're going to tie our bow, and this ribbon is the most forgiving ribbon for tying. Honestly, it doesn't matter how badly you mangle your bow. If you just keep playing with it and pulling your knot tight, you're going to get a really cute bow, honestly. It's just fantastic ribbon. And it's pretty. It's got a beautiful little shimmer to it. It's just gorgeous. So we're going to trim off our ends. And then this is going to get tucked just under the end of our label like that. So I'm just going to add a glue dot to the knot. And we're just going to tuck it in just under the end of our label, just like that. Isn't that cute? Love it. And then, of course, because, you know, I'm me, we need some bling. So we're going to add a little bit of wink to our pansies. This probably won't show on the video. You'll have to take my word for it. And a little bit to the buds. Okay. And then we're going to add a few in color gems. Now I'm almost out of the freesia on this sheet. So I've got one, and then I'll open a new pack. So we're going to add a couple of these little freesia in color gems. Open this one. And we'll grab a couple more. These are so pretty, these gems. They've got a really pretty iridescence to them. And they're just gorgeous. Oh, we got a stray pansy center. All right, there we go. We are done. Now let me clean up my mess. What a disaster I made today. So there is our finished card on the inside. I think I just added a panel. Yeah, I didn't do any stamping on the inside. You certainly could, or add a different sentiment. Okay, so there's 1, 2, and 3. 3 different ways to make pansy cards using this awesome suite. Stamps, DSP, and die cuts. All right. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this very long video tonight. And I hope you have a good look at this suite. It is an awesome suite. You're going to have so much fun with it. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. And I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.